Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Blue Jaegers, and today we are going to be talking about the rumbling, the climax of the series, everything it's been building up to, the rumbling. Why did Eren do it? And this is where lots of the confusion comes from. Why did he do it? Some will claim, well, it was to protect parity. Some will claim, oh, it was only for his friends. Some will claim, well, it was only for his personal freedom, which most of them don't even know what they're talking about when they say his personal freedom. But they'll say he did it for freedom. 139 makes it like he stops fighting for freedom. All of these are false and they're misconceptions. So, I'm going to put in no uncertain terms what the rumbling actually was for. And in the order of importance, as seen by before 139 and of course 139, and how all these were present since the beginning. Number one, the biggest reason, the most important reason to Eren, the number one reason, top priority, and once he got assurance of this, he was able to go through with this, was Mikasa. Yes, I know, you guys are getting angry, you're tearing your shirts, whatever. Leave. You weren't going to understand the rest of the video anyway. But, for those of you who are still brave enough to stay on, even if you disagree, welcome. But, he did it for Mikasa. We know this because when he was 9 years old, I think he went and he killed those murderers. Not murderers, but traffickers. Well, they were murderers too, but you know what I mean. He went and he killed the traffickers. Now, why? What reason did he get to his dad? Well, he wanted to save her. He said this as he was blushing, which is honestly anime shorthand for he likes her. Then, later on, we see that there's flowers, purple flowers, later on in his life, but when we first see them, there's purple flowers, which, again, is a little bit of a stretch, but I have it on multiple sources that purple flowers symbolize endless love, and they are present throughout the show, and of course they're first present with Mikasa and Armin, and of course, you know, later on they show up in Trials when he protects them from the cannon. They show up as well. All these actions are motivated by love. He wanted to protect them. That's why his Titan created a cage, right? It was actually a defensive thing, not an offensive thing, which is usually against Eren's nature, to be he's usually an offensive guy, as just Arctic put it beautifully. Eren's the sword forced to be a shield, and Reiner's the shield forced to be a sword. In this instance, again, it's another instance of him being a shield. He's a literal shield for the ones he loves, and lo and behold, those flowers pop up. And we see later on in the memory shards, the biggest shard, first shard, is Mikasa, followed by Armin, I believe. Although I'm not entirely sure on whether or not Armin follows directly after, but Mikasa is the biggest memory shard. It's and it's the first one in the manga. It's literally front and center. In the anime, it's the first one you see. So whatever medium you choose, it's there. I know my shirt's wrinkled for some reason. I don't know, it's not wrinkled, but I'm sorry. And there's no reason to do for that. Okay, let's continue. So because it's obviously important to him. Then later, when they're building the railroad, he says, and it's more obvious in the manga, but it's still there in the anime. He's talking about how important everyone is to him, and they're all blushing, all of them. And what happens? The manga focuses. Actually, the manga has it as it's Eren on one side and Mikasa on the other side. They're both looking at each other, and it's just Eren and Mikasa on that one panel. Well, it's not a panel. It's like a section of the manga. It's just technically two panels, but you know what I mean. It's just Eren and Mikasa. Not Eren's story, not Eren and Armin, not Eren in the 104th, Eren and Mikasa. In the anime, they're looking at each other, and it's one after another. So it's sort of different, but it's the same thing. And then, of course, in 138, we see, and this is up for interpretation, understandable. This is my opinion. Again, most of my videos are not my opinion, but what I'm about to tell you is my opinion, my personal theory, is that this is Eren physically bringing her to the past. Remember, the Ackermans can't be manipulated. They can still be they can still make use of the Fountain Titan's powers, which is why Levi and Mikasa can both hear his announcement. But I think this is Eren bringing her into the past physically for 4 years in the past. And the reason why I think this is because he says, "Throw the scarf and forget about me." So obviously, to me, Mikasa can't. That's not Mikasa's head can't, because Mikasa wouldn't make something up like that, right? So, in my opinion, that is what's happening over there. Again, you may think differently, and that's totally fine. It's up for interpretation. So I'm just going to put that sort of an asterisk. And then, of course, in 139, we actually get two things. And I'm not talking about Simp Eren, actually. But the first thing I'm actually talking about is when he says, I got you guys all caught up in this. My precious friends caught up in this, not knowing they'll survive or not. But he didn't know who will survive. He didn't know he will survive. He didn't know his friends were going to survive. But he did know Mikasa was going to survive. And he didn't know the Titans were going to be gone from the Earth. That's what he knew. And that was enough for him to keep moving forward. He was in the mirror in whatever chapter it was, whatever episode it was. He was saying, fight, fight. The scenery of the Titans being gone from the Earth, which we see in 139, by the way. That scenery, we do see it. And on top of that, Mikasa being alive, that was enough to push him forward. He didn't know about parody, he didn't know about himself, he didn't know about his other friends, but he knew Mikasa will be alive, there will be no more Titans, and that will be enough. That's enough for me. And that's what, among other things, he motivated himself to fight towards that goal. And then, of course, we have, Simp Eren. We all have seen it, right? I know it's summertime, like it's having beach days, you guys are having a good chuckle recreating that scene, but I don't even need to explain any further, No, I don't want that. I want to be able to, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, so obviously, Mikasa is the biggest priority for him above all other people. It's certain and it's there. Now, quick side note, the reason why he's not that loving towards Mikasa as, say, Gabby and Falco are. Falco's constantly loving towards Gabby and doesn't push her away, is because Eren is fixated on his freedom, which doesn't allow him to fully enjoy Mikasa, which is why Eren's a cautionary tale. Eren's what not to do, right? In a sense. Again, there's lots of layers of Eren's character. That is one of them. He's a cautionary tale, and so he's so fixated on his freedom that he's missing what's in front of him. So that's why he's like that. It's a delicate balance, and Sienna does it beautifully. It's obvious, it's there, it's developed as much as it needs to be developed, and it ends perfectly. Alright. Well, maybe not perfectly, but it ends pretty good. More proof for him loving Mikasa and it being for Mikasa is that, and then you can take it with a grain of salt if you want. I said it to last, but I say this later. In Child of Evil, he says, the world is cruel, but I still love you. Obviously referring to Mikasa. I will sacrifice anything to protect you, singular. So obviously Mikasa is the most important, since he sacrifice everything. Armin, parodies, freedom, everything to protect Mikasa. Alright, so next reason we did the rumbling was for his friends. And I also put Armin in there, right? And another evidence for Mikasa is whenever, again, this is sort of a stretch, so I say it for last, but whenever they're talking about, moving forward, he says, either him, Grisha, or Kruger says, if he wants to save Mikasa, he says that first, then he says Armin, then he says everyone else. And to me, it looks like it's in the order of priority. You could think otherwise, perfectly fine if you think that, but for me, it seems like it's in priority, since of course everyone else is last. It says if you want to save Mikasa, and Armin, and everyone else. Even in the context of saving parody, in Season 3, it says if you want to save Mikasa and Armin, right? And they're actually just got them talking about loving someone inside the walls, and then that came up, right? Mikasa's the first thing to come out of his mouth, and it's constantly repeated in that order, no matter who says it. Alright, so moving on. Next thing is Armin and his other friends. So that would be, Connie, Reiner, Jean, Annie, Falco, I think. I mean, not that Falco really is his friend, but he likes Falco. But so that would be everyone else. So Armin and then everyone else. Now, he wanted his friends to, of course, live long, happy lives. That's another thing I forgot to mention. And when he's talking about his friends living long, happy lives, Mika says literally front and center in his memory. But we'll continue. So, his friends living long, happy lives. And, of course, he repeats this over and over again. He goes and fights Armin's bullies. He goes and sacrifices his own life. Mr. Keep Moving Forward. Mr. I'll Kill the Titans. Sacrifices his life, gets his arm bitten off and swallowed by a titan for the sake of Armin. Right? So obviously, loves Arya enough to sacrifice his life for him. Obviously, and it's funny because he says that you think I'll die in a place like this, which is foreshadowing because they're killing him in the mouth. More proof to say this was all planned from the start. So, he wants his friends to live long, happy lives, and this would explain some curious decisions that he did. Like number one, when he announces the rumbling, he says that all the Titan hardening has been undone, and that's a peculiar thing. Well, why is all the Titan hardening been undone? Why not just the wall hardening? Which of course leads to Annie's crystal being broken, and we're like, did Eren not realize what he was doing? And then of course it becomes clear later on, oh, he didn't know whether his friends were going to survive, so he wanted to give his friends a fighting chance by adding another Titan into the mix, a very intelligent Titan at that. So that's why he did that. Another thing, in Sinners, he calls him up to the past and he says, listen, if the world takes away freedom, then he's not lying when he's saying this. This is what Sach says. Half truth, half lie. But let's continue. He says, the world takes away my freedom, I take away their freedom. And speaking of which, whenever he quotes this, he's always thinking of the kidnappers. Back in Tross, who the first thing he thinks of? The kidnappers. Back in the past in 121, the kidnappers. Interesting. Of course, this is all around Mikasa. But listen to you. So he says, if the world wants to take away my freedom, I'll take away their freedom. But you are my friends, I care about you. I don't want to take away any of your freedom. Right? You have the freedom to defend the world's freedom. I have the freedom to take away the world's freedom. You are all free. It's the last thing he says to them. Now, the funny thing is, well, first off, he's talking to Reiner and Annie. So, like, wait, does he care about Reiner and Annie's freedom? I didn't know he liked Reiner and Annie. I thought he hated them. Wait a second. That's kind of weird. But, you know what? They were friends, right? They were comrades. Maybe he still has an affinity for them. And, of course, he understands them more. He says he's the same as Reiner. You know, maybe it's a little bit different. Falco. Alright, well, you know, Falco, you know, he kind of likes Falco, kind of looks up to Falco, you know, whatever. But Pieck and Gabby? Why does he care about Pieck and Gabby's freedom? He's only had negative interactions with those two people. There's no good reason why Pieck and Gabby should be allowed to Pieck should be allowed to maintain her Titan form, for Gabby to be allowed to do whatever she wants to do. Not to mention Theo and all the other people. Why are they allowed to stop him? But more specifically, Pieck herself has a Titan. She controls the Titan. Why doesn't she get her Titan powers taken away at best, or at worst get incapacitated? Well, the reason why, of course, is because, again, in 139, he didn't know whether they were going to survive or not, so he wanted to give them the best chance. Hence, he kept all the Titans around, right? So of course, I mean, I'm bringing that up to say that he cared about his friends, and I bring up past examples, right, of him saving him from the bullies, from him sacrificing himself in Tross, all these things to say that he cared about his friends, he wanted his friends to live long, happy lives, and 139 shows that and clears up some questions. Now, the third reason was for parody's sake, right? Parody, of course, was important to him. That was his homeland. That was where he was born. That's his race. That's his history. That's him. I hate to say he identifies, but he identifies as a Eldian. He identifies as an Eldian, so he feels strongly about that. And so when the Marlands are talking about them being devils and being bad, all sort of stuff, it of course instigates that freedom fire mentality in him. And of course, again, he's a nuanced guy. He's a nice guy. He doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't want to slaughter people. He doesn't want to have to wreak destruction on the world. He's tried over and over again, and he's like, okay, this is the only option. And he decides that the rumbling is the only way. And of course, it's apparent to everyone the rumbling is the only way. I mean, again, I'm actually watching season 4 for the first time, and it's disgusting how ignorant these people are and how uncaring they are for Eldia, Hanji, and the rest of them. It's clear to everyone that the rumbling is Eldia's best chance, especially Eren's version of the rumbling, not the 50-year. But anyway, so he wants Eldia, and of course, I feel like I don't need to bring up proof for that. That's not controversial to say, but he did care about Perry, he did care about Eldia, and he wanted Eldia's safety, and he accomplished that. Right, he accomplished that. He made them the most powerful country in the world. There's really nothing else to say about that. He accomplished what he wanted to accomplish. He killed 8% of humanity, killed a bunch of generals in Liberia, or Liberia, whatever you want to call it. he killed people there, which means that there's knowledge and expertise that has wiped off this earth forever. Got rid of the Titans, studied 80% of humanity, so he completely secured Parade's future as best as he could possible. Of course, he can't control human nature, right? He can't prevent them from invading other territories for resources, or vice versa, or a civil war, so on and so forth. But he did the very, very best he could, right? Historia was in charge. Right? We had Armin the Negotiator. We had Historia. They had the perfect storm right there. So they had peace on the island for decades. They weren't invaded for decades. The most powerful military, so they were perfectly fine. So yes, he achieved that goal, and I don't think I need to prove why he cared about Parody. Now for the fourth reason, which is the least important reason to him, and the most important reason to him. That's why I love Eren Yeager. He's a complex, layered character, and he actually has character development. A lot of people don't know this, but he actually has character development. So his personal freedom. We have to ask, what is freedom for Eren? Well, freedom for Eren is getting rid of the animal. The animal is what he's been fighting against. This is why I love that kidnapper scene so much. It's such a great scene. Well, who's the first animal he kills? Who's the first person who calls animals? Who's the first person that says he'll kill? The human traffickers, who are taking away Mikasa's freedom. He goes and he kills them. And he says, of course, you're animals, you die. It's only natural this happened to you. He goes to his dad and he says, they're only animals disguised as humans. And because, what are animals, right? Animals to Eren are people who take away either his freedom or the people he loves freedom, right? Those people are called animals to Eren. And of course, he does this first with Eldian humans, mind you. Not only humans, but Eldian humans, because of course, humans are the real bad guys. Every gun that gets fired, every bomb that gets dropped is done by a human. So it's as foolish to be angry at a bomb as it is to be angry at the Titan. They are merely weapons of war, nothing more, nothing less. And of course, Eren eventually realizes this, and of course, Eren knew this beforehand when he goes and he slaughters Eldian humans. Calls them animals. And then, of course, what happens? After the Titan kills Mom, he called them animals before, but after the Titan kills Mom, it got much, much worse. I think a good way to describe it is, you were already mad because, your enemy burnt your hand really bad. He gave you a third-degree burn. Then he sliced your hand off. Or no, let's just say he sliced your arm off, right? That's really what it was. He was already angry with the Titans beforehand. He was really angry with the Titans beforehand. But they just sliced the whole arm off. Then he kills Mom. What did he call them? He said he'll exterminate them, every last one of those animals that are on this earth. And then when he finds Marley and the world who are uniting their hatred against Eldia, of course, he calls them animals. He says he'll exterminate every last one of those animals that are on this earth. So what is freedom for Eren? And of course, well, we know what freedom is for Eren. He says it to Ramsey, someone who cannot understand his language. He goes to Ramsey and he says, when he got the book, he wanted the world to be wiped clean of humans. He wanted it to be like Armin's book. Because Armin's book did not correlate with reality, because his ideal did not correlate with reality, he wanted to make it correlate with reality. It's not so much there can't be races and this is only one race. It's not that. It's more of the Thanos attitude. Now reality can be whatever I want. And that is freedom for Eren. Reality can be whatever I want. And since he wanted the Earth to be inhabited by just nature outside the walls, he was like, well, I have all 6 Infinity Stones. Might as well. Of course, not as well. And of course, we see this in a great, great chapter 131, where we see the trampling, the death, and the bodies flying everywhere, and the baby. And he says, every time I've seen those damn walls, and of course the Titans are, the Titans which were walls around him, are now actually walls around him. Smoke is rising when he beforehand said the furthest thing removed from freedom is ignorance, and there's smoke all around. He can't see anything. Cannot see anything. Comes out as a child from his puppeteer skeleton, from his puppeteer, with outside of his puppeteered head, comes out and proclaims it's freedom. But of course, Eren, having tasted freedom, having contorted reality to be what he wanted it to be, realized it was in vain, and he makes a frowning face because he knows that this is not what he always was cracked up to be, right? As I said in a debate, he was constantly trying to eat chocolate, and then when he tasted the chocolate, it tasted disgusting. He spat it out of his mouth. Now, this is simultaneously the most important reason to him, and then it became the least important reason to him. He put all that aside, and he accepted death for, again, multiple reasons. He accepted it, of course, as a sacrifice for Mikasa, as a sacrifice for his nation, as a punishment for his sins. Many reasons why he accepted death. But he accepted death, even though he had full power to stop it at any moment. Full power to prevent his death at any moment. Could have easily killed Mikasa. Could have simultaneously given every Eldian a heart attack, here style, but he didn't. He accepted death, and the Titans were gone from this earth. And of course, what did he say to Zeke? Right? They're gonna live long after I die. So after he dies, after he cannot see it, the Titans are gone. His daughter had to sacrifice her baby. Right? Mikasa's around, Armin's alive, all that good stuff, and he put aside his freedom, which again, as I say, his character development, he put aside his personal pursuit of freedom, contorting the reality of his desires, making the world like Armin's book. He put that all aside for, again, whether you want to say it's for parody's sake, for his friend's sake, for Mikasa's sake, for even if you want to say it's Historia, whatever. Fact of the matter is, he still has character development. In fact of the matter is, that was a motivation of his, was doing the rumbling. And of course, he says this over and over again. He says, "This is what I wanted." In a chapter, says, I think it's chapter 130, 129. He says, "Is this everything that I wanted?" Right? He says, "A runner, we're born this way. I'm born this way." He says to Zeke, I'm not manipulated by anyone. I just want to seek out freedom. This is how I am. And of course, and 139 itself, he says if he wasn't stopped, he would have rumbled. He would have gone full rumbling. So of course, this is what he wanted. No, he did not change his plan midway. No, he didn't do any of that. Maybe the author could have been more clear as to what he saw. I don't know. I mean, I found it pretty obvious, but I'm not a good measuring stick because I'm more intelligent than the average person by a decent margin. So maybe it's unfair for me to think that since it was clear to me, it should be clear to you too. But no, he wanted to do full rumbling, and even in 139, he said he wanted to do full rumbling. So again, that's where the mix-up happens. All these goals and motivations are mixing in his head. He doesn't know and he doesn't know how to. I mean, or maybe you don't know how to interpret them. He doesn't know how to interpret them. Both are true. Maybe not. Pick and choose. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. The story's still great either way. So. Yeah, so that explains Eren's actions, right? That's why he's, grabbing Hanji. That's why he's saying this stuff. That's why he's, talking about keep moving forward. All this are all those reasons. It's all of those reasons. It's not any one of them. It's a combination of them. It's all of them combined in that order exactly. That's why he did the rumbling. That's why he did it. There's no discussion or debate about it. It's for Mikasa, his friends, parody, and then his own personal freedom. Alright guys, thanks for watching, thanks for sticking along. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.